Hello, guys. I'm going to tell you a little story from my life, and hopefully, it makes sense and it is helpful to you guys. It's been on my mind for a couple days, so we'll share it with you. I'll start with the backstory a little bit. I have wild blackberries that grow on my property, and here's Leo. I have wild blackberries that grow on my property, and I like to pick them in the late summer. And there's quite a few of them, and I like to pick them. We can make jam. You can also eat them fresh. They're very sweet, and wild blackberries have of course, totally different flavor than the kind that you can buy in the store. And they are very much sought out, around these parts. When I was a child, my parents would load us up in the vehicle with buckets, and they had big 5-gallon buckets, and we would spend the evenings in late July, early August picking blackberries. So that was something that we did. And a few years ago, I was trying to think exactly when it was, and I know my youngest child was probably about 2 or 3, and he is 12 now. So a few years back, I was out picking blackberries in the evening, and if you've ever picked blackberries, wild ones, they have some pretty wicked spines on them, and you can get your skin can just get ripped to shreds. They have a very protective defense system over themselves that you have to wear long sleeves, like long pants. Some people even wear gloves to pick them because, where the berry is actually attached isn't too spiny, but the plants and the cane and the old briar that they're attached to is very spiny and very you can really get hurt. And I actually have, you won't be able to see it on camera, but I do have a scar on this hand from a blackberry briar where I had reached in and it scratched me so deeply that it scarred. So anyway, so I was picking blackberries, and this was at a time in my life where I really was having difficulty, and I was starting to realize that I had been not being myself, and I didn't really know who myself was, and I was trying to be all of these things that I was not. I was trying to be very involved in my church, very involved in social circles, trying to be this social, extroverted, people gathering, entertaining person. And I was realizing that that was not sustainable. That was not who I was. And I was very sad over who I was not. That was mostly, the things that I wanted to be at that time were more important to me than what I actually was and the way that I was created. So it was a time of trying to discover who I really was, what I was able to do, what my giftings were. And I was really very sad. And a lot of people at that time in my perception had taken advantage of me. And if you are a kind Leo, if you are a kind, compassionate person, and have a lot of empathy, it is easy for narcissistic people, to take advantage of you. And at that point, I was really hurting in myself, and I didn't know who I was, and I didn't know what was healthy for me to be doing as far as having boundaries with people and how much activity I should have. And so I pretty much just started shutting everybody out. And so back to the story. I'm picking blackberries, so I have like my bucket, and I'm just picking, and that I'm usually by myself. Sometimes one of my kids will help me, sometimes I have a friend, but I'm usually by myself, and it's a really good time for me because, I'm alone. I'm out in nature. My thoughts can run and run and run, and I can just, listen to whatever is circulating around in my head. So I was probably just totally lost in thought and thinking and thinking. And then all of a sudden it pops in my head, you're like a blackberry. And I thought, I'm like a blackberry. Oh, I'm sweet and people are drawn to me, and I'm pretty. Blackberries are pretty. I actually had a blackberry colored sweater on before I started filming, but I got a bunch of lint on it from the laundry, so I had to change. So I'm in black now. But I heard you're like a blackberry. And initially I thought of all the good things of a blackberry, and that was good. It was truth. I'm sweet, and people are drawn to me, and people, just like when we would be driving down the country roads when I was a child with our buckets, if we saw blackberries, we would pull over. We were drawn to those blackberries. But no, it was the defense mechanism. It was the spininess. It was the people are drawn to you and your sweetness and your vulnerability, because the actual fruit of a blackberry is very vulnerable. It's soft. It would be easy to eat. It would be easy for an animal or a person to come and pick all of it, and there be no seed left to plant, because they are self-seeding. If they didn't have their defense mechanism of all their spines. And so then I had to think about, I'm like a blackberry. I have put out, even though I have this sweet, desirable self and this usefulness, and people are drawn to me, and people want to be around me, I put up this briar of these canes and spines and scratchy things to protect myself. And at the time when that was going on, I felt so wounded from things that had happened to me, as a young person and then as a young adult, and things that I perceived to be against me. And because I really didn't like myself, because I didn't know who I was and I thought I needed to be all these things that I wasn't, I put up this defense mechanism to keep people away. And at the time when I heard that, you're like a blackberry, was like, yes, I am strong and I can protect myself and I don't need people and I can keep all the bad people away. And now, hearing it again, this many years later, 8-10 years later, I'm thinking, have I perpetuated my own loneliness by being a blackberry? By putting out these spines and pushing away the people that actually would be healthy for me and want to love me. If you watch the video where I interviewed my husband, and I didn't even think of this until the other day when I watched it back for something, he mentions that something he would like to see me change is that I keep people at arm's length. I don't let people in. And he doesn't know if it's a trust issue or a fear issue, but I don't allow people to come in. I kind of keep them at arm's length, people that would want good for me and that would love me. And that's going back to this, you're a blackberry, because there are things that would be, that people would be drawn to, that sweetness and that usability. And I say usability not in a way that like, oh yeah, I can use up this person, but just, I couldn't think of a better term. That's what keeps coming up as usability. But many times now I'm remembering the chances that I had to make a good friend, to connect with people, and even people that have only ever been kind to me, that I have pushed away. Not aggressively, not in a way that I've like scratched or hit them, but I've just put up walls. I've had invitations like, would you like to come over for coffee? Oh, yeah, maybe sometime. and sometime never comes. And I'd like to, there's people that say, I would like to do this thing for you. Is there anything you need help with? Would you like to sit and talk for a little while? And to that, I always say, oh no, I'm fine. I can handle it because I am a Blackberry. I'm going to be tough and strong, and I don't need anybody. And I am going to put up this shell around me to keep people away. And then I'm going to sit and be a victim and say, I'm lonesome. I don't have close friends. I don't have anybody to talk to. I don't have anybody to connect with. But some of that is of my own making. And years ago, when that first started, it was necessary. There were people in my life that wanted to use and abuse me, and I needed to put those walls up. But now, years later, I can recognize manipulative behavior. I can see when someone wants to just take advantage of my nature, take advantage of me, and they don't really want a mutually beneficial relationship. So it's time for me to start taking those spines down, start taking some of those walls down, and actually accept the love that people want to give me and accept the relationships that are available for me. So I'm wondering if you guys resonate with this, if you have a similar, spiny wall structure of blackberry briars to keep people from getting too close, where you can have this. I so desire to have these close friendships and these close relationships, but there's like this protective barrier that they would almost have to slash and cut down to get through to my heart, because I am thinking I am just a self-sustaining fortress that I don't need any human beings to love me that much. So I've been perpetuating my own loneliness, and it's getting called to my attention. So I'm just remembering you are like a blackberry, and I don't want to be a blackberry anymore. Maybe the blackberry, but not the briars. So let me know, guys, if this is something you struggle with, and have a great day. Thanks for listening. Live and love out of the way you were created.